Good evening, sir.
You are already looking like a police officer.
Thank you, sir.
Have you spent time in Sardar Patel Academy?
Yes, sir.
That does it to you. Good. You are looking sharp, crisp, hair trimmed. Are you
Sir.
enjoying IPS?
Yes, sir.
Good. First of all, tell us, how are you? Are you all right?
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm all right.
How is the situation at home?
Sir, at home, my parents, they have taken the first dose of vaccine. So still they have to take the second dose. So I'm worried a little bit, but still they are fine till now. And hopefully they'll be fine in the coming days also, sir.
Right. And in the academy also, everything fine?
Yes, sir. Sir, they have, in the academy, sir, they have initiated containment measures. So where they are enforcing very strict code that who can come in, who can go out. So here also, in by and large, sir, the situation is good at the academy.
Explain to us the training you are undergoing.
Okay, sir. Sir, so basically, sir, the IPS training that we have, right now we are in phase one. So phase one training is, sir, basically where we are trained in different aspects, sir. First is the outdoors that we have, outdoor training. So in that, sir, we have PT, we have drill. Then, sir, coming to the indoor classes, we have different subjects like investigation, CRPC, IPC, Indian Evidence Act. Then we also have, sir, weapon training and horse riding and different kinds of activities.
Does this training include an awareness that we are servants of the people?
Yes, sir. Sir, to a large extent.
How? Beyond words, other than words. Tell us how this sanskar, if I may say, the intense word for it is sanskar. That
Yes,
we
sir.
are not rulers, we are the servants of.
Sir, so right from day one, sir, when we enter into the academy, we are taught that if you have a mindset that you are the rulers, if you have a mindset that you have become officers now, you can rule over everyone. So shed that mindset. And right from, sir, this mindset, it is reflected in the way that we treat our ustads. From the day one, sir, we have ustads who are just constable rank. Similarly, our ADIs, they are sub-inspector rank, inspector ranks. But even we have to follow whatever they say. We have to follow all their commands and we have to respect them. So this is, sir, in one aspect. Then, sir, in other aspects, sir, actually, we are not allowed to go out of the academy yet. So as you said, beyond words, they had planned a lot of things like visiting the society, but those things, sir, we are not able to do yet. So the process is going on.
Uniform, worthy is something to be proud of. But there is a point where pride slips into ego.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us when that happens?
Sir, there can be, sir, two aspects to this. One is at a personal level that some officer, he can get overconfident that now since he has got that worthy, he can do whatever he wants and he can also violate the law. So instead of following the due process of law, in different cases, he may resort to some extrajudicial measures to gain some extra brownie points in his career. So instead of taking pride, he's having arrogance. So that is possible, sir. Then in certain places, sir, the work culture as a whole, that can also deteriorate. Some policemen, they can, as we see in the news, there are at times, for example, sir, torture in police custody. A lot of issues are there. So where the police, they go beyond the mandate that is given to them, and the worthy, they think that it is a source of power that they derive without having any accountability to the public. So, sir, that is an issue that we see.
In my thinking, there should be an element of conquering ego. Every officer, mind you, not only IPS, I'm talking of IAS, etc., should be trained to conquer ego. What do you think?
So definitely, sir.
And how do you train to conquer ego?
Sir, so first of all, at a personal level, we need to inculcate some values like politeness. Every officer should be humble. We should always remember that we are servants of the public. So that's a instilling of moral values at the individual level. Then at the, sir, institution level, at the organizational level, if, for example, sir, the seniors, they demonstrate through actions that they are humble, then the juniors will also follow suit. So, for example, sir, in our academy also, our faculty, sir, most of them, they are very humble. And through their actions, we now, if they are not arrogant, so how can we be arrogant, sir? So through actions, through the leadership model in an institution, it can be inculcated into the ranks.
Good, Shashwat. I want to discuss one last point for the
Sure,
time.
sir.
Tell us the meaning of your beautiful name, both parts, Shashwat and Tripurari.
Sir, so Shashwat, it means eternal. In Hindi, sir, it means sada rehne wala, matlab, that which stays forever. And Tripurari, sir, it is the name of Lord Shiva. So there is a mythological story also behind it. There was a demon, and then, sir, Lord Shiva, all the devtas, sir, they came together. Then a chariot was created, and ultimately, sir, basically, sir, Tripur plus Ari, he is the enemy of the three forts. That was the story. So,
thank you, Shashwat. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shashwat.
Good afternoon, sir.
My compliments to you that you are at Police Academy, Hyderabad. I've been going there for some time to speak to the officers. I've not gone for the last about 3-4 years.
Sir.
It's a wonderful place. And I'm sure with the leadership there now, you will be put on a good grounding, I can assure you. I know some people there. I also compliments to you that you already made it to IPS. Now, why do you want to? Of course, it is your choice, your desire, but what is wrong in continuing in the IPS itself?
Yes, sir. Sir, so there's nothing, sir, wrong in continuing with the IPS, sir. I consider myself very fortunate and very privileged that, first of all, I've joined this service. And sir, that is why I've joined the service also. I have not taken any leave. Directly last time I got selected and I've joined training now. Sir, I've appeared again just because, sir, when I started my preparation, I always wanted to be an IS officer, sir. And in the IS, sir, I feel that there's more diversity of job. As well as, sir, the career progression, sir, it is little better compared to the IPS. Although the IPS is also a very good job. So, if... Yes,
good, that is fine. There is an impression, or there is a inner, you can say, tutu meme, that paramilitary forces are headed by the IPS officer instead of by those officers who have joined those forces itself. And their point is that they do not have adequate exposure to the culture of that particular force. For example, Assam Rifle, ITBP, CRPF, or Seema Shastra Bal, and so on. What do you think of that? Is that fear or apprehension correct? Or you think there is a scope for the officers who are going there to get used to that culture? Your views on that? Very brief views.
Sir, my view is that both the officers, whether that be from the IPS or whether that from the officers from inside these organizations, both can do good. As you, sir, rightly said that the officers who are from these paramilitary organizations, they have better exposure when it comes to field craft and tactics, when it comes to the knowledge of terrain, when it comes to knowing the discipline of the force. So yes, sir, they have advantages, and that is why they demand that they should be given these managerial positions. But sir, when it comes to the IPS also, in IPS, sir, the kind of exposure that an IPS officer gets in internal security, sir, at the district level, we handle different security challenges. And sir, also we have a culture of deputations in India, which encourages interdisciplinary learning and cross specialization. So even an IPS officer, as you rightly said, sir, he can go into these organizations with the skill set that he already possesses and further refine it. Yes, sir.
Now, there's also a correlation that a nation may be well defended, but it may not be secure. Say the national security, the integrated national security is gaining more importance now than the national defense. And 9/11 is the example. Nobody could have launched an attack on the United States, but USA was well defended. It was not well secured. Has India got a chance to learn something from them? that if you are internally not secure, only defense mechanism will not work. Your thoughts on these?
Yes, sir. It is absolutely true that if we don't have proper internal security, no matter how well we are defended against the external powers, if inside our own borders we don't have proper intelligence, whether that be human intelligence or technical intelligence, if we do not have appropriate mechanism to deal with the criminals, if we don't have speedy resolution of the crimes, like in some cases, sir, the terror cases, still they are pending. David Headley, sir, for example, extradition to India was rejected by the US. So, sir, there are a lot of issues, definitely. And as you rightly said, sir, we need to be internally secure. We have a lot of internal security challenges, sir, whether that be Naxalism or terrorism or insurgency, sir. So, definitely, sir.
Our ladies who have joined the CRPF and other such organization, they are doing extremely well. The ladies contingent in United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Africa is very popular, because they understand the problem of the locals. And there's a constant demand. 6 more nations are asking for the ladies contingent as part of peacekeeping force. What makes our ladies, I'll not say popular, but so efficient in discharging their duty? I'm sure in academy you must be touching this aspect. Peacekeeping, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Sir, exactly related to peacekeeping, sir, how the lady officers are doing well, sir. I have not read this case study.
Not only officers, everybody. There are CRPF constable, and particularly the girls from Kerala. Oh my God, they can beat anybody else if they want. Never take a panga with them. They are very popular in that part. Must be some reason for it.
Sir,
okay, don't worry. You will
yes, sir.
See it. Why the ladies contingents in UN peacekeeping missions are very much in demand. There are 6 countries are asking the government of India, but we don't have that many people. Second point is the ladies are now being inducted in the military police to start with as a test case, as a constable or as a sepoy or anything else. Okay. And gradually they'll be built up. Do you think there is a scope for ladies to be deployed on the forward area, the front line, the line of control, the terrorist organization in Kashmir, or they should be kept away from such places? Your views?
Sir, eventually we may think of going in that direction. But still, sir, for example, the women that have been given the commanding roles in the army, still they have been excluded from the combat roles, because, sir, there is an apprehension that they may get caught by the enemy forces and then they may outrage their modesty. There are a lot of concerns, sir. So we may think of doing it later on, but if we do it, then it should be the women. We will have to first of all take strong consent from them. We'll need to inform them that these will be the adverse situations that you will face, and these can be the extreme consequences in case that you are caught. So only after such due deliberations we can think of deploying them in the front line and in the combat roles.
Final point, there's a demand that the organization like BSF or CRPF, ITBP, not the CRPF, but the ITBP, when they are deployed along the LOC or LAC, should be under the operational command of the army. But there is an inbuilt resistance from those organizations. Your views on that? If one of the points which is coming up, I'm just sharing with you, if ITBP was under the army control, Galwan would not have taken place. Your views?
Sir, better licensing and better coordination, definitely we can aim that between these Central Armed Police Forces and the Indian Army. And in certain places already, sir, for example, in Assam Rifles, it is a paramilitary force. Already there is, it's both under Ministry of Defense and Ministry of MHA. So similarly with other forces, sir, we can deliberate that how to increase coordination. So, sir, we'll after, sir, only, sir, evaluating the pros and cons, sir, I'll be able to tell, because, sir, it's a very nuanced issue, sir. So,
excellent.
But yes, sir, definitely more coordination is needed.
Yes, sir, you're right. Very happy. I'm very happy. This is like a 2 bureaucrat.
Sir.
Never be specific.
Sir.
Always give the answer which is acceptable number of options. I compliment you.
Thank you, sir.
I compliment you for your thought process, the clarity, and the way you have put across. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure we'll be able to see you as a very successful IAS officer. All
Thank
the
you,
best.
Thank
What
you,
do
sir.
you, ma'am?
Thank you. Hello, Shashwat.
I'm Shashwat. Yes,
Shashwat.
ma'am.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am.
So this Tirupurari is your surname?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're from which state basically?
Ma'am, I'm from Uttar Pradesh.
Okay, but Tirupurari seems to be somewhere like you're from Tamil Nadu or no?
No, ma'am.
I heard Tirupati, but I've not heard Tirupurari. Okay, good. So you are already in services, serving as a police officer in the training. And just now you said you are going through some of the CRPC, IPC, Evidence Act.
Yes,
Can we just talk about some of the provisions of CRPC, especially, if I say chapter 12, which is about information to the police officer and their powers to investigate.
Ma'am, the section, can you please, which section
Yes,
actually?
I'm starting from a very interesting section, that is section 154.
Yes, ma'am.
What is 154?
Ma'am, section 154 deals with the lodging of FIR. When a police officer, he or she.
In common language, you say lodging of FIR, but in specific language, information in cognizable
offense, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Cognizable case.
So tell me further. Go for next sections or this section also.
Yes, ma'am. So basically, section 154 deals with the fact that when a police officer receives complaint in a cognizable offense, then he or she has to register a first information report. Then, ma'am,
if it is given orally, it will be reduced in writing.
Reduced in writing. It will be reduced in writing, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And then some more sections.
Ma'am, section, yes, ma'am. Section 156, ma'am, it deals with, it's a very relevant section.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, if a police officer, he refuses to lodge an FIR, then we can go to the superintendents of police of that district. And this is often used in the districts. When we go as IPS officers and we become SPs, then we use this section to direct the junior officers to register FIR in case they are not registering.
Right. And 157 talks about procedure for investigation. So yes, what is procedure for investigation?
Ma'am, procedure for investigation, actually it's given, some clauses are given in the CRPC, then some clauses we read in the academy also. So overall procedure, exactly, ma'am, what is there in the CRPC? I'm not able to recall what exactly the provisions are. But
no problem. Section 25 of the Indian Evidence Act says that confession to a police officer is not to be proved. It should not be proved against any person who is accused of an offense. So what do you say about this?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the law says that the confession that is given in police custody, that is not admissible in the courts. So it is admissible only if there is a subsequent discovery of a fact related to it. For example, if someone says that in a police confession that he's a murderer and he says that I hid the knife in that particular place, then this would not be admissible. But if the police goes and finds that knife, then that knife is admissible, and then subsequently we can build the case. So only confession in judicial custody is admissible in courts, not in police custody, ma'am.
Okay. Under the IPC, the term public servant has been defined. Do you know how it has been defined?
Sorry, ma'am, exactly I'm not able to recall right now.
Okay, I'm giving you one maxim of the criminal law. Actus non facitrium nisi mancitria. You have heard it?
Yes, ma'am, I've heard it, but act, ma'am, some mens rea related, it's related to mens rea, but
it says act alone does not constitute a crime unless it is coupled with guilty mind.
Yes, ma'am, mens rea. Yes,
yeah. So, but there are certain offenses where mens rea can be an exception.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us.
Ma'am, in social offenses, for example, under the SC/ST Act, this mens rea is not applicable. which are crimes of social nature, ma'am.
Yeah, it can be with regard to many other things also.
Yes, ma'am.
If it is food adulteration.
Ma'am, I'll have to check, ma'am, on this one.
You have to check on this. No problem. Okay. Have you heard about Gram Nyayalayas?
Yes, ma'am.
114th Law Commission report recommended. So what is
Yes,
this? First of all, how do you understand? And then what is the present day status of Gram Nyayalaya?
So Gram Nyayalayas were established for a speedy resolution of cases in the villages. So
speedy
we have
accessible.
Yes, ma'am.
More important is accessible.
Yes, ma'am. Accessible. So these were set up as, ma'am, yeah, you rightly said, on the recommendations of the Law Commission. And right now, ma'am, they are working in different parts of the country to ensure that the poor, in a very accessible way, it gets justice.
Okay. So what is the status? Has it been established the way it has been proposed in the beginning?
Ma'am, yes, as far as I am aware, yes, they have been.
Look at the data.
Okay, ma'am.
It is only 1 or 2% hardly been implemented. Okay, go and check it. And why it is so? It is a matter of concern.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, Shashwat, that's all I want to ask you. Good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Shashwat, can I call you Chirantan?
Pardon, sir?
Can I call you Chirantan?
Chirantan, sir, sorry, I don't understand the meaning, sir. What is Chirantan?
Chirantan is Shashwat.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay. So you are from Prayagraj.
Yes, sir.
So Prayagraj is, Allahabad is said to be confluence of 3 rivers. Which are they?
Yes, sir. Sir, Ganga, Yamuna, and some debate is there with respect to Saraswati.
Did Saraswati exist? Are there any historical evidence of Saraswati having existed in the past?
Yes, sir. So actually there are different theories when it comes to this. So right now, sir, the evidence that we are finding, sir, earlier the dominant view was that the Saraswati, it flows from underground somewhere, since they were not able to find it. That was the dominant theory. Then, sir, later on, this Ghaggar Hakra channel was discovered, and it was found that through Haryana it was passing to the Arabian Sea. So then the question arose that how can it pass through Prayagraj route, because it flows towards the west. So then, sir, there are 2 theories. One is that when, sir, this in the Vedic period, sir, the Kuru Janpas was there in the Delhi area, near the Delhi area. So finally, they had migrated after the flood to this Prayagraj region. So one theory is that they carried the memoirs of the river Saraswati, and they said that the river Saraswati flows through this place, Prayagraj. And the second theory, sir, is that some tectonic shift might have happened, and some minor channel of that Saraswati river would have got diverted towards Prayagraj. But still, sir, finally we still some debate is there, sir.
And any idea where from it started?
Sir, the exact point.
From a village called Mana, ahead of Badrinath, the place from where Pandavas went to heaven.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now tell me, would you be in favor of the reservation policy continuing ahead for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes?
Sir, definitely, sir. In our constitution, our founding fathers, they had envisaged social justice as one of the aims of a welfare state that we are having. So, sir, these communities, SCs and STs, they have been historically deprived. So this reservation, sir, it was introduced so as to give them a level playing field in the government jobs. So definitely, sir, it needs to be continued. However, at the same time, sir, the metrics, because, sir, some groups, they have been more marginalized compared to others. So for example, sir, different commissions, they have recommended that there should be a multiple level, for example, some point-based system. Like, for example, if there is a scheduled caste, scheduled tribe women also, then some additional points needs to be given. If he's a transgender, then additional points. So based on that, reservation should continue, sir, but the mechanism, we might refine it or rationalize it.
No, but we had 70 years of reservation, and if still things continue to be where they are, it will continue to be where they are now 50 years ahead. So how to ensure that the benefits go to right people, and there may not be any need for giving reservation 20 years hence, 30 years hence?
Sir, first of all, sir, I would beg to disagree a little bit. Sir, right now we have a class of affluent class of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, which are a result of this reservation policy, and now they are able to in a more articulate manner, they are able to bring forth their interest in the society. So there has been progress, sir. As you said, sir, till when it will continue, sir, that we cannot say, because slowly, when it comes to different indicators, whether that be health indicators, the education indicators, slowly we are working on that. Yes, sir.
Okay. What is your opinion? Those of them who have become a bit affluent, are in good service, etc., etc., should it continue for them?
Sir, right now, sir, I cannot say whether it should continue or not, because still in many parts they face social discrimination, these affluent communities.
No, social discrimination, he is elevated in society, and I don't think there is any social discrimination in the jobs they do. At least in jobs, today the social discrimination has gone down to a significant extent. So, because if they continue to get, they are able to give better education to their children and send to better schools, then those who are there in the village and not getting access to education, they will never come up.
Yes, sir. That is why, sir, there should be a points-based mechanism. Like income also should be factored in. Whether his gender should also be factored in. So that, sir, we should try.
Okay. Tell me what else government can do to give them better justice, both to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes.
Yes, sir. Sir, so first of all,
yes, we had a special component plan, we had a tribal sub plan. We wanted to ensure that at least certain amount of money gets spent on their welfare. So what more government can do to give them speedier justice?
Sir, as you rightly pointed out, different schemes are there. But when it comes to what more we can do, it's about the intensity of implementation. That is the question, sir. Already, sir, different schemes are there, but how well we are able to implement them, through that we can say that their progress will happen. So for example, sir, when it comes to the STs, scheduled tribes, still there is land alienation going on. Still there are issues of that their land rights are not respected. This is leading to problems like Naxalism, etc., sir. When it comes to the scheduled caste, still they are the various schemes, sir, we have. But at the ground level, at the implementation in different schools, still they are discriminated in certain pockets. So at the ground level, sir, the implementation needs to be better. And ultimately, we should focus on capacity building.
What do you understand by urban nationalism? Urban nationalism.
Urban nationalism, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Urban nationalism.
Yes, sir. Sir, so urban nationalism, sir, basically the Maoist organizations, they are banned. But in many places, sir, there are some ancillary organizations which works as fronts for these organizations. So they are sympathizers with their ideology. They try to defend their acts. And so this has been observed, sir. So they garner the support base for these Naxals and they work in urban areas.
Are they convinced they cannot get to power to do what they intend to do through regular ballot? So resorting to violence is the only way?
Sir, resorting to violence, sir, that is never the answer. Ultimately, sir, change can only happen through democracy. And when people, they get representation, so they might believe in, sir, a particular ideology, but that might not necessarily be true. And ultimately, sir, the ideas that have been envisaged in our constitution of a welfare state, of progressive socialism, I think, sir, that is the way forward rather than resorting to violence and establishing a new state which exploits people. Because that has happened in many parts of the world, sir, where these governments came to power.
Now, why Naxalism? We always speak of a belt. So like if you see right from Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and then Jharkhand and Bihar, that belt has the maximum prevalence of Naxals. Why not in other places?
Yes, sir. Sir, so one major component is that those are the areas where the scheduled tribes, they have a significant presence. And the scheduled tribes also, sir, they face a lot of issues. Like, sir, I previously pointed out, sir, that land alienation, then money lenders, they have exploited them. They have been pushed into poverty. So the Naxals, sir, they, in many places, sir, these tribals, they're very gullible. And they give them promises. And they say that by resorting to violence, everything will be solved. So, sir, that is why we see that in many of the places of Eastern India, these Naxals have garnered support. For the genuine grievances, they have turned it into support for violence and destruction.
Tell me some of the achievements of digital India that we have been able to reach, which has benefited the poor,
Sir, so now the one of the success of digital India is the Jan Dhan Yojana. Now, sir, it has led to financial inclusion due to the increased digital presence in even rural areas. Now they are able to use the online transactions for transferring money. Similarly, sir, in the times of COVID, the digital education, sir, that has also picked up. Even in the rural areas, the government is trying to figure out in what innovative ways can education reach the poor in a digital way. So,
has this DBT, direct benefit transfer, digitally made some people unhappy?
Yes, sir. The intermediaries who earlier they're
not able to make their buck.
Yes, sir. For example, recently when DBT was extended to farmers of Punjab and Haryana, sir, there was a lot of protest by the RATs, the commission agents. So, sir, yes, sir, the people who are entrenched into the system, their interests would get hampered. So they would always protest, sir.
But this has potential to bring justice to a very large number of poor people.
Yes, sir, because, sir, the amount that would directly get transferred into the account of the poor, there would not be any scope of people siphoning off money or corruption. So it would benefit the poor, sir.
Who had said when we send 100 rupees to somebody in a village, only 15 rupees reaches him?
Sir, it was Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
Okay.
As far as I can recall, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, tell me the farm laws which are being protested so much now for last 6 months are right or wrong?
Sir, they are, by and large, they are right, sir.
Any positive reason?
Yes, sir. Sir, the reason is simple that in India, sir, right now, the agriculture that we have, the farmers, sir, their income is very less. And this farm laws, these have the potential, sir, to increase the income of the farmers. So, for example, sir, there is right now the APMC mandis, sir, they do cartelization and they depress the prices. And even, sir, the Ashok Dalwai committee that was appointed by the government, it highlighted that the price that a consumer pays, only 20% of that reaches the farmers. So a lot of degree of intermediation is there, sir. So through these farm laws, one is that monopoly of APMCs will be broken. Through the private mandis, yes, sir.
Monopoly will be broken, freedom will be there, yes. This I agree. Exploitation will go down from APMC. But what is the guarantee that the private traders and the people who deal with farmer will not exploit him?
Yes,
there is no compulsion of minimum supply price on him.
Yes, sir. So, sir, the government has said that the procurement at the MSP that will continue first of all, and to ensure that there would be no exploitation, the government has they have said that the prices would be monitored, sir. And if someone indulges in exploitation of farmers, then he would be booked under the law. So, adequate provisions and safeguards are there, sir.
Would it be possible for any government to give minimum supply price for all the 23 produce for which they declare the price?
Sir, right now the issue is this only, that the MSP procurement is not happening for most of the crops. But that is a challenge, sir, because the government has limited manpower, limited resources. But ultimately, for the welfare of farmers, we need to expand our procurement at the MSP levels.
And what will they do with it? If they procure, how will they dispose? Okay, rice and wheat they give through PDS. So everything has to go through PDS. What about perishables, fruits and vegetables?
Sir, so they can be through the food processing industry, sir. We can do value addition. We can sell them to other countries. We can export them. So it has a lot of potential, sir.
Government is not good in doing business.
Sir, so government can, yes, sir, it might not be good in doing business, but through some mechanism, it can ensure that that amount, which is extra amount which it procures, does not go waste, and it is through the food process, it is converted into food it is diverted into the food processing industries.
Okay.
In a reasonable manner, sir.
Thank you. Next member, please.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Shashwat. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you.
You are residing, as per your DAF, in a place called Andrews Ganj.
Yes, sir.
Who was Andrews, after whom this Ganj has been named?
Sir, his name was Sir Charles Freer Andrews, sir. And sir, he was a freedom fighter. And he was an aide of Mahatma Gandhi, sir. He also, I think, taught at St. Stephen's College. So he was a very prominent figure during the time of freedom movement, sir.
Okay, very good. And similarly, there is another area in Delhi called Jangpura.
Yes, sir.
Who is it named after?
Sorry, sir. Exactly, I'm not able to recall right.
It is a Colonel Young, who had resettled the Raisina Hill people in Jangpura. So they named that area as Jangpura after Youngpura.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, that aside, tell me, we see so many instances during the COVID, vivid scenes of police brutality, which are captured and shown on television. What is India's reluctance to ratifying the Convention Against Torture?
Sir, my personal opinion is that eventually we should ratify it, the Convention Against Torture.
Why are we not doing it?
Sir, exactly, sir. Sorry, I'd like to read more about it. I'll have to say it, sir.
In the context of cybercrime, how do you understand I4C?
Sir, I had read it, but I'm not able to recall right now, sir.
India Cybercrime Coordination Center.
Yes, sir.
Now, we have seen during the Bengal elections and during other elections, the police is placed under the Election Commission.
Yes, sir.
It really matter who the police works under as long as they are doing their job. Why does this mechanism, which was not there earlier, why does it come into force?
Sir, it comes into force to ensure that the elections, they are free, fair, as well as neutral. Sir, the Election Commission, it is a constitutional body, having constitutional mandate, having independence. Whereas, sir, during the election times, if the police is forced under a particular state government, then there would be apprehension, sir, that the particular political party in power of that particular day, it might use the police to fulfill its agenda. Sir, so to ensure the neutrality of the police during elections, this mechanism has been created.
You feel the police is a force which is amenable to being misused like that?
Sir, we have a lot of...
Are you not admitting that there is a weakness in the force?
Yes, sir, there is a weakness in the force, because ultimately they work under the elected government. So there is a possibility, sir, a possibility is always there. Although there are provisions of the law that, for example, no one can interfere with the police investigation. The police has to carry out all the procedures as per the law. But still, sir, there is a possibility. So to ensure that that possibility is eliminated, this mechanism has been created.
Do you watch a program called Crime Patrol?
Sir, yes, sir. Quite some time back, I used to watch on the television.
In lockdown conditions, we are watching it all the while. Sir, I only wanted to know from you whether it's a PR exercise or is it something which reflects police work in a realistic manner?
Sir, most of the times they do not show the sections of the law that the police uses, or how the orders they are carried out. Sir, at times they are more concerned with story building and all those things. So, sir, I cannot say that it 100% reflects the working of the police. But yes, sir, it shows that how the criminals, they plan a crime. So in that respect, I feel that yes, it has at times some reality, that how from a small instance, it ultimately culminates into bigger crimes from, yes, sir. So in that respect, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it is realistic because every episode ends with the third degree application of absolute force.
Sir.
Okay. When you are answering the questions on Digital India, you mentioned about education.
Yes, sir.
What is Swayam Prabha?
Sir, Swayam, sir, I know it is the massive online open courses portal. Swayam Prabha, sir, Prabha,
Same thing.
Achha, okay.
You should know it because it's a Doordarshan initiative.
Okay, sir.
Has that taken off? Are the courses structured the way they should be? The complaint is that the platform is good, but the courses are very, very rudimentary and not up to the mark.
So definitely, sir, with respect to awareness and with respect to some of the content, there may be scope of improvement, sir. Yes, sir.
You are also a jogger?
Yes, sir.
Till when is something called jogging, after which it is called running?
Yes, sir. Sir, the cutoff is 10 kilometers per hour. The speed is 10 kilometers per hour.
10 is too fast.
Yes, sir. Sir, but it is defined as that only.
9 and 10 is running. Is
Sir,
that how
sir, 10 and above it is running, but less than 10 it is jogging, sir.
And teaching underprivileged children.
Yes,
what
sir.
are you doing exactly?
Sir, earlier, sir, when I was in Delhi, sir, I used to teach in the Munirka Basti, sir, the slum children over there. Sir, now, sir, I've joined training. So right now, sir, I'm associated with one online platform with respect to UPSC aspirants. Sir, it is by the civil servants of Bihar and Jharkhand. So I am associated with that. And sir, then here at the academy also, we have started a mentorship program for the children of our own staff, sir, constables, head constables. So as a part of that also, I'm mentoring a student.
Thank you, Shashwat. Wish you the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Hoping to see you in the list.
Thank you, sir.
What is the exact difference between cognizable offense and non-cognizable offense?
Sir, in a cognizable offense, sir, the police has the power to arrest without a warrant. Whereas in a non-cognizable offense, the police has to obtain the permission of the court.
You remember the term suo motu?
Yes, sir. Sir, suo motu, the police has the power to investigate in a cognizable offense, whereas in a non-cognizable offense, the court has to direct the police to investigate.
Exact difference between bailable offense and non-bailable offense.
Yes, sir. Sir, in a bailable offense, the accused has the right to bail. Whereas in a non-bailable offense, the right to bail is not there, but he may be provided with bail.
Should Uttar Pradesh be divided into 3, 4, or 5 states?
Sir, my personal opinion is that rather than focusing on dividing the state into 3, 4 states, we should focus on better governance, sir. Because, sir, if we divide, first of all, sir, smaller states, if you look at there have been certain reports, sir, which show that smaller states are no panacea. It is not automatically true that they would witness higher growth. For example, sir, Uttarakhand, still it has, compared to UP, it is more, the growth rate is higher. It has better indicators, but still, sir, overall, when compared to rest of the states, it is still lagging behind in the human development indicators. And in Uttar Pradesh, sir, if we divide it, then additional issues may come. For example, the river water sharing. Right now, there are a lot of rivers flowing into Uttar Pradesh. Then there may be additional issues. And so rather than dividing, we should focus on better development. And we can create some more districts if need be. But the state, yes, sir.
Present human species is called Homo sapiens sapien.
Yes, sir.
Right? How is it different from Homo sapien?
Sir, so actually, this species called Homo sapiens, it is called the anatomically modern Homo sapiens, only Homo sapiens. So it emerged around 250,000 years ago. And the physiologically, sir, all the features that we have, that is of Homo sapiens only. Then, sir, it is said that around 70,000 years ago, a mutation occurred in our brain and we developed better cognitive abilities. So it is called the behaviorally modern Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens sapiens, sir, is in the behavioral aspect also, we behave like humans, we have higher cognitive abilities. So that
Good.
is
What was your score in the interview last year?
Sir, it was 179, sir.
And how have you worked to improve that score now?
Sir, I worked on my personality, sir. I've tried to develop more confidence.
Has cadre allotment come through?
Yes, sir.
So you are allotted to which cadre?
Sir, Uttar Pradesh cadre.
Okay, good. Good, Shashwat. All the best.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent interview, Shashwat. Excellent. Yeah. You are very properly holding your ground. Then you are positively coming across as an IPS officer. It shows you have undergone the training also carefully and have studied the issues. Since you are IPS officer, please remember that most of your interview this year is likely to revolve around IPS.
Yeah, that is why this is what actually I want to tell. I'm staying for that only, that you have to brush up a lot with the CRPC, especially Criminal Procedure and Evidence Act, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Because of your being a police officer, it will revolve around that itself. And apart from this law, other rules and regulation with regard to police academy and all. So please prepare for that. Yes, sir, please.
Yeah.
Sure,
smile. Continue that smile.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. And at the proper places in the interview, but your answers were with cheerful. So voice showed energy. Please continue with that. Let there be this positive energy. You are, of course, coming as a confident person. Continue with that. Okay, so these are plus points of your interview. There was only one place where question on I4C was being asked by Chandrasekhar sir.
Yes, sir.
And you took a long pause. That was a disproportionately long pause. You could have said, I'm sorry, I don't remember, or something to that effect. Just the pause indicates being foxed. That was the only place in your entire interview where you seemed short of words. Otherwise, this is excellent interview. On the discussion on policy of reservation that was going on with Sarangi sir,
yes, sir.
I thought you needed to refer to some Supreme Court judgments about and principles that creamy layer theory, there is single generation benefit theory, or reservations at entry point and promotions to be merit based, etc. So refer to some very specific cases and that would sharpen your interview. This is, as it is an excellent interview, it will take you to beyond 185. You will begin to even touch 190, that we are very sure. Excellent interview. Continue with that. Towards the end, I tried just one question each on Uttar Pradesh, but expect possibly a lot of questions on Uttar Pradesh. And also since anthropology is your optional subject, also expect a lot of questions on anthropology. Today's interview did not cover too many. So just towards the end, I just posed one question each. But I'm sure you are ready with it.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So excellent one. Continue with this excellence.
Thank you, sir.
We are sure you will be IAS officer this year.
Thank you, sir.
Any addition by any other faculty panel member?
Wish you the very best.
Only I want to tell you that you should focus on your police thing, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
You are muted. Sarangi sir, you are muted if you want to say something.
Yeah. I think he came up very well and his poise all through was absolutely correct. And as you said, because he's already in service under in IPS, he can expect a large number of questions from law background or his job background. But his performance was very good.
Thank you, sir.
Your success.
All the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.